Right. Hello, everyone. I guess we are live. Uh, Good morning or good afternoon, depending where you are. My name is Christian, and today we're gonna have some webinars around AI plus design thinking. So I've got super special guest, which is Agata. Hello.
Hi, hi.
So maybe you can tell us a little bit about your background. So my first question actually to you was how how many design thinking double diamond workshop you facilitated so far?
It's oh my God, I don't know. A
Is it
lot.
more than 100?
Yes, probably. I've been doing design for over 15 years right now. So
Okay.
there's been at least 10, 15 a year. So quite a lot,
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
say.
So I guess that in the beginning, probably you wasn't really aware that this is called double diamond, right? So
No, of course not. It
yeah,
had over the 15 years, it had so many different names from
yeah,
just user-centric design process through design thinking, double diamond, and really everything in between. So
yeah.
um, yeah, I've always been telling the process has been similar. It just
Yeah.
had different names and it evolved a little bit. It changed a tiny bit every here and now.
Yeah, yeah. So can you tell us a little bit more, what's your current focus? Because I know that you're more involved into general innovation, right? Which is very kind of big umbrella word.
Yes, it is a big umbrella word for really anything that can happen from a problem
Mm-hmm.
or a need that we see or identify to the actual solution. And when I said anything from the problem, it actually can start at different points. It can start with a new technology that we see and experimentation on how we can use that technology. And right now, when I focus on innovation, I have less focus just on the user and identifying those user needs, but I shifted towards making sure that we're creating solutions that are desirable, feasible, viable, because I think this is where innovation happens. And they have to combine. I think they've always had to combine, but right now it's really very visible that they have to combine um, technology. They have to combine business needs, and of course, users, people as well as they've always had. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's really interesting what you said because I've lately found that even in this tech space, often people enjoyed to organize design thinking workshops since it was kind of offline. Then we had the pandemic, of course, and we all jumped into Miro workshops. We facilitated dozens of those workshops, and then we had uh, pivot. So and many companies really enjoyed to get back to offline, right, to get rid of the technology layer. And since we have right now more again turn into AI process, then maybe it will change somehow again. So I know that both of us we've been discussing this probably since a year on what's happening in AI in terms of design process. So like we lately we have a lot of discussions in terms of, and this is probably, and we had this conversation on LinkedIn before, people saying that, hey, this is basically the end of double diamond, it's not working anymore. Probably we have very similar case in software development where since 2017 people are telling that, hey, agile is not working at all, get rid of that, there are other models, which at the end of the day seems to be exactly the same as we had before, but probably different name. So I was thinking about your general, before we will deep dive into AI and more in detail, but you're kind of saying that, hey, design thinking is not working anymore, or it's not delivering the results. What's your kind of general practical thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I love how provocative this statement is.
Yeah, like a clickbait, right?
Yes, the double diamond is dead.
Yeah.
And I think it's good that it's provocative because it
Mm-hmm.
sparks discussion and it
Yeah.
sparks curiosity and reflection on whether what we're doing as innovators, designers, if we are still on track to actually being innovative and creating good solutions. And having said that, I don't think it's dead, but I
Yeah.
think it's evolving.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's changing, and I think it's really wonderful that we're questioning how AI can aid this process and where space is for AI to help us with this process. Will it replace us people? Will it be a co-pilot? Which tasks can we automate and which we cannot? Um, so with Double Diamond, it's there's been a big emphasis on the desirability of the solution. So there is a big discovery stage with a lot of research happening and generating, going wide, divergent, generating a lot of ideas, and then converging again and developing one or two and testing it and iterating, and this iterative character of the process is part of the definition of it. And I think this is still very relevant.
Yeah.
And like I said, and I think we're going to circle back to that in a little bit, there is space for AI, and it's interesting to observe where that space is and how we can utilize it.
Yeah, 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 definitely makes sense. I'm getting those questions also a lot because, like, last couple of years, I've been more into innovation, kind of product design thinking space. Now, more going back to AI, where my original background was. But there are, like, I guess, three main reasons, and this is for people hearing this for the first time, on why, like, companies are saying that, hey, design thinking is that, or double diamond is that. And probably one of the reasons is that because those companies are kind of trying to sell their own new methodologies, right? And these are more like AI infused. But there are like three main reasons, and again, very similar to agile world. So the first one is that and this is what the board of innovation mentioned, to be precise, like the success of innovation is not about human thinking alone, right? This is the first thing. The second thing, that so far, in their opinion, the process focused on desirability rather than feasibility and viability. So not really into whether it's really kind of business case to be implemented, or is there any technical feasibility to implement that, right? And the third one, which is probably one of kind of interesting, that the classical process reinforces human biases and shortcomings. Well, like, we had these discussions also yesterday about biases with AI, right? So this is also like one of the biggest risks. So saying that in the traditional process it might reinforce biases, it's also like, I'm not sure about it. Like, so what's your kind of thoughts on those 3 points? Which one is the one that you are? So we have success is not human thinking alone. Second one focuses desirability, not feasibility, and the third one is about biases. So which one kind of resonate the most with you, with the classical process?
I think the first and the third.
Yeah.
So I'd say the desirability part is the one that would be on the second or third place for me.
Yeah.
Still relevant, but I want to address the biases part first, because I think it really connects to the first point, that it's not just human focused anymore.
Yeah.
And the reason AI systems are biased is because they are trained on data created by humans.
Yeah. Biased data, exactly.
And we as humans are biased, and we operate on stereotypes because we have to, because the amount of stimuli we're getting from the world, our brains wouldn't be able to process it. So in order for us to function, we operate on stereotypes.
Yeah.
And of course, in the modern world, we're challenging those stereotypes, we're redefining them, we're broadening our understanding of the world, which is great. Still, AI systems are trained on the data that we generate.
Yeah.
However, and we know they are biased. Like, for example, text to image
Mhm.
things. The images created by AI tend to operate on stereotypes and
Yeah.
generate a certain stereotypical image of the world.
And this is unlike very, just to jump into that, this is not even, the reason might be not that this is made in purpose or this is particularly trained on biased kind of people, but the
Mhm.
reason is that since those AI models work on probabilistic statistical amounts, and you
Yes.
have just amount of data that are probably, for example, people with white skin, then
Mhm.
it will kind of statistically return the output with the white skinned people. And so the data itself might be biased because of the kind of, amount of data.
Or misrepresentation
Yeah,
of
or
the
misrepresentation. Yeah.
represented group in data, right?
Yeah.
um, Whether this being different skin colors or women or ethnicities and so on and so on, right?
Yeah.
And this is of course a problem that we see in data and we see it in the modern world. But what I wanted to say is that when we are aware of it, that both we are biased and the AI is biased, then we can actually use AI to our advantage.
Yeah.
Because even though AI is biased, it's also much better than we are in dealing with complexity and with
Hmm.
complex problems.
Yeah.
And we have several opportunities. One, we can train it. We
Yeah.
can try to provide it with the data that's more relevant and that will eliminate bias, or
Yeah.
as much as it can, at least, right? And second of all, well, we can prompt it correctly.
Yeah.
Even with the data it has, though bias is there, we can prompt it so that it is aware of it and it tries to, I'm lacking a word, tries to have a broader perspective, right, rather
Hmm.
than a biased one.
Yeah.
Um, so why it leads to the first point? Because I think AI in the design process and the innovation process is not something that will replace us,
Yeah.
but it will become a co-pilot.
Hmm.
So it will aid us in certain tasks. It still will require us humans to have, an oversight, the right prompting, sticking to the process, just using it differently and having this wonderful, complex machine thinking together with us, helping us with certain elements of the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, definitely. So, if we would like jump into the process, the classical process itself, and then to move into more like, modern ways. So,
Mhm.
like the classical process, the double diamond or triple diamond, I guess it was never purely double diamond. So, probably like many different, versions of the process itself. So, there are four elements, right? The
Mhm.
first one, of course, is where we're trying to look holistically, and this is called discovery part or discover part. So, in this space, I would say, where do you see like the biggest kind of opportunities for using AI in the discovery phase? You
Mhm.
mentioned that you're also the researcher. And then where do you see that, hey, this is the area where we will still need human beings? So what's your thoughts on the first stage?
So there are hypotheses
Yeah.
out there that say we no longer need research.
Yeah.
We have a lot of data. We can have predictions on user needs, on user behaviors. We have huge amount of information, and AI can be something that helps us
Yeah.
basically, do this whole discovery phase work for us. Like, and this can be not only user research discovery, it can also be competitive analysis, it can also be looking into feasible technologies, and how to combine those user needs with those technologies. And I think it's amazing that we can experiment with it.
Yeah.
But me having a very scientific mind, and also coming from academia a long, long time ago, I think it's a hypothesis. And as you know, the way academic work works, we need to invalidate it. So we're
Yeah.
posting a hypothesis, we try to invalidate it. If we fail, it means it's true, and we can do it, right? So I am skeptical, but
Okay.
the only way for us to learn and discover whether this can be done is to try
Yeah.
and experiment and compare, AI predictions with what we humans discover. And some
Mm-hmm.
of the companies, like for example, Board of Innovation that you mentioned, are already experimenting with it, and
Yeah.
they are having the results in which an AI solution that included AI powered discovery process scored as high or even a little bit higher than the one that was created fully by humans. And we
Mm-hmm.
need those experiments. We need to see how it works in order to learn. And then I think then depends on the use case. There will be situations where this might be enough, and we can just rely on it. But then there might be others where it will be very important to have the human touch, and to go back to traditional ways of doing things.
Yeah.
And I have an
So
example, if I may.
yeah, of course, of course.
And it's like a super up-to-date example for me. I'm in a project right now that's a very complex project with a subject matter that I'm not an expert in. Um, and so I'm having a lot of interviews and talks with experts in the subject matter.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the tasks I have to do this week actually is to create a user journey
Mm-hmm.
for the process we're working with. And I am using AI to help me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm using AI to transcribe my meetings. I'm
Yeah.
using AI to synthesize them. I'm using AI to help me create the user journey. But
Yeah.
still, A, I needed to conduct those interviews. B, when the user journey is ready, I will go back to those experts and I will validate, hey, is that
Yeah.
correct? Are we
Yeah.
missing something in it? So it's again a co-pilot that helps me in my
Yeah.
process.
This is actually very interesting because yeah, usually, the domain knowledge is some kind of a mind block that can actually limit you in diving into some specific area of the design, whether it will be product design or a service design. When you have this kind of co-pilot, this is easier for you to at least like do this, as you mentioned, research part, or get those initial information that can help you to work with some specific domain, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, and my point here is also I've been testing in AI in this discovery phase for sure. Like the one thing that is irreplaceable is this human to human interaction points, and actually I found it quite important in the process is that sometimes people are implementing the process not only to kind of deliver the solutions, but also to interact with other people, to work with the
Yeah.
creativity part a little bit. And I've been also commercially conducted a lot of workshops where companies were saying, hey, kind of at this stage deliverables are not key priorities for us because we want to show some kind of change in the company. We want to show the people that you can work as a team, that you can work with the people that you are not in the diverse group, that probably you might not working on a daily basis. And this is a key value for them to kind of interact in a new ways. So this is not where all this data analysis, super AI driven kind of product ideation is not a key point here, because they were looking the people were looking into more like interactions. So for sure in the first phase, interviews, but then there is the second phase, right, which is kind
Can I
of.
add a point to that
Yeah,
one?
sure.
So I think one of the challenges with AI and doing this whole discovery process with AI is as well that the element that's missing then is aligning the team on common
Hmm.
goals and on common
Yeah,
understanding.
and this is buy-in, right?
Yes, exactly. Getting the buy-in.
Yeah.
and having a deep understanding as myself of the problem and solution. And of course I can read AI output report, but we all know that hearing something from a human is different than just reading it in a book. And we have
Yes.
so many smart books about so many smart things, and yet not all of us are so smart as the books there
Yeah.
say, right? Because oftentimes having a theoretical knowledge is not enough.
Yeah.
Getting a human experience just
Yeah,
tips.
this is extremely interesting what you just said, and this is like 100% sure that if you want to deliver something successfully after the design phase, you need to have a buy-in with your stakeholder, which means, and the only way to do it practically is to involve them in the process. So if you
So
will
let me
have some
jump to
kind
that.
of artificial output where those people will not be involved, it will be something that they will get as a kind of out of the box solution. They will not buy it, right? They will not support it in the organization. So this is
That's
not
true.
all about the best ideas, right?
Yes, but it's I could challenge that, because
Okay.
we're looking a little bit further into the future, and
Yeah.
let's just, as an exercise, let's imagine a future in which a product can be created autonomously by AI from
Yeah.
scratch, everything, the whole process, and we have a product that also has AI implemented, and it's self-evolving product, and then we can generate 50 versions of that product
Hmm.
instantly. Well, we AI, right?
Yeah.
And those products, they in their own versions, they can go to the market, then can be tested, we can see whether they work or not, and then the matter of buy-in actually is no longer relevant, because we're going to
Hmm.
have objective data. Hey, this solution works and those other don't. I'm
Yeah.
not saying this is the future, but like, we could imagine this happening, and whether it would work or not.
Yeah, definitely. For sure, for some kind of organization, it could work. But also, from the practice, the decision of launching some product, it's not always only data driven kind of decisions. And I strongly believe that in this data driven space, AI might be like super helpful, right? But there are also some political decisions, some human kind of background decisions, and this is where ultimately AI will probably not help us to solve it, as soon. So jumping maybe a little bit further in the process, so we have the define right part where you're kind of gathering the insights. You already have your interviews conducted, you're gathering the data, right?
Mhm.
I guess that since those large language models or a lot of like machine learning tools are getting democratized, so it's easier to use it on a
Mhm.
daily basis. You don't need to be data scientist to use it anymore. I guess that it might be a big opportunity for the designers, right, to use the AI if they already have a large amount of data, whether it will be qualitative data or quantitative data. I know that there was already a lot of manual work, even with scripting the interviews manually, trying to find some patterns. So at least like from my perspective, this is the stage where AI might be helpful, right? Because it will just move faster.
Yes, exactly. It already helps us, and we do that here in Netguru as well.
Yeah.
Um, we, like I said, transcribing interviews automatically. Before we had to do it manually. We just simply had to write them down, and
Yeah, I remember with my projects 5, 6, 7 years ago, it was literally kind of recording of the interview, and I need to type it down the entire
and
like
then
1 hour interview, right?
exactly.
Manually.
And
Yeah.
then you had to fit 20 of them, right?
Yeah.
Imagine the amount of time and work it took, and then also coding the data in that, and then
Yeah.
affinity diagramming and drawing conclusions, right?
Yeah.
So part of this process we're already automating, and it saves us tremendous amounts of time. And we also have to remember that right now, innovation teams and design teams, they are smaller than they were 5 years ago.
Yeah.
We are living in an economical downturn, and
Yeah.
those departments are shrinking. while we still need to be as creative as we've been before, come up with more complex ideas, educate ourselves, and so on and so on. So
Yeah.
having those time savers, it's
Yeah.
it's a godsend.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so this is like getting back to, or going back to the original, statement that AI will not replace your job, but it will just replace some stupid, manual tasks, specifically here, right? That probably we don't need, kind of your competences to type down the entire script, because you can save this time to, I don't know, plan strategically some other phase, right?
Yes.
So this is the define part, and then we have my favorite one, which is ideation or develop phase.
Mm-hmm.
And here I can tell you from also like the Netguru perspective, because since AI is still on experimentation phase, like the tools like large language models, for instance, we still kind of unsure about the some commercial applications, although there are some very viable commercial applications. However, still a lot of kind of prototyping phase. Then we are very, much in this phase, usually on production. So here we have like, prototyping phase, and as you mentioned, ideation, creative ideation, right? So these are kind of two, I would say. So I was wondering, what's your, thoughts on those kind of elements?
Oh, a couple. So again, AI can really help us. We might have ideas, and then AI can take it further,
Mm-hmm.
or it can even right now automatically create set of wireframes for two or three ideas that will be good enough for testing, especially in early stages of idea generation, right? Where we're unsure, shall we go way A or way B? And we can do that. We've always been doing it, having even sketch prototypes, pen and paper, or
Mm-hmm.
user stories and testing them. And so this is something that can be AI generated. But then also from a technological perspective, we are, like you mentioned, unsure about the commercial uses of AI.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more important than ever to create technological proof of concepts and experiment with that technology, not only to see what is technologically feasible, but
Mm-hmm.
like our case in Netguru with the Neuronest, the app that we were developing, right? It also raised a lot of ethical questions and design
Mm-hmm.
questions. How do we deal with consent? Do we inform the users that we use AI? How do we inform them? What are the legal aspects of it, especially for example, medical applications?
Mm-hmm.
And so this created a space for us to research it further, to educate ourselves, to pose those questions, to raise awareness of those topics. So
Mm-hmm.
those proof of concepts are very, very important. And when we talked in the beginning that innovative solutions are at the intersection of desirability, feasibility, and viability. So this viability and feasibility aspects can be addressed when
Mm-hmm.
we have knowledgeable proof of concepts. And that
Yeah.
also is the way we work, because as designers, we have to work even closer right now with engineers, with developers, to develop those.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And as you said that teams are shrinking, then I believe that the interaction between technical and design, teams will be even more important than ever right now.
Yeah.
For me, like probably the biggest opportunity here in this development stage for utilizing AI tools. I'm not sure if I would like use only, idea generation or ideation based on AI. There
Mhm.
are also like a lot of, like, as you said before, domain knowledge contexts that probably this AI might not be trained on.
Mhm.
And also some kind of even business political background information where people can usually kind of write it down, but AI will not be aware of that. So
Yes.
for sure, in some kind of maybe cross industry inspiration or in the strategic design might be useful, right? But probably not replacing this process completely. From me, like in the entire process, the biggest change. The biggest opportunities is with the point you mentioned as well, which is the prototyping phase, and whether it will be service design prototyping, or you like probably software development will be affected the most, where you
Mhm.
can easily utilizing like low code, no code tools or AI no code tools to prototype. So maybe this is the end of the cardboard prototype. But
Yeah.
yeah, but so it will be more into probably maybe this phase between development of prototype and delivering the solution will be somehow kind of condensed together, where
Mhm.
you will be much faster, much able, and much capable to deliver the prototypes faster. Maybe not the final products, right? But still you will be able to deliver more prototypes, and those will be more high fidelity prototyping. So maybe low fidelity prototyping will not be a case anymore, because it will be much easier to deliver high fidelity prototypes faster, right? So yeah.
And we are already moving away from low fidelity prototyping with many years ago the birth of design
Yeah.
systems, and then the process around that can also be automated to a degree already right
Yeah.
now. And so maybe circling back again, that's my favorite phrase for today, circling back
Hmm.
to Double Diamond. And is Double Diamond dead? Is design thinking dead? So Board of Innovation created this new model called
Yeah,
Stingray.
Stingray model, right?
And if you would see it, it's still shaped like a double diamond, except it's a bit of a different cut.
Yeah.
Uh, we stick to the diamond analogy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it does look a little bit like a stingray, like the fish being the second diamond being elongated.
Yeah.
And like I said before, it's the stages stay kind of the same. Just what we do in them and how we approach them changes to involve, AI aided tasks or the work that AI can do.
Yeah. Yeah. I can also like share my screen for a sec to present the people those three models like visually that we are discussing right now, or two models. So yeah, this is classical double diamond model, right? We just discussed the develop stage. We
Mhm.
have also, this is the Board of Innovation Stingray model. The interesting part is that the kind of light blue part are the part that are more like AI led in there, and then further you go in the process, this is more human led process,
Yes.
which, as you mentioned, at the end of the day is quite similar to classical. What I can like tell you from my perspective, at least, like with prototyping specifically or creating AI driven software, right? Then this model, which is combining, I would say that lean startup is again, and this is funny thing because 3 or 4 years ago, people were saying this is the death of lean startup approach or lean approach. The end, right? Like finished. This
Yeah.
is not relevant anymore. And I see that in terms right now in 2024, when you're delivering AI driven solution, lean approach is really kind of hot again, because you need to, in this case, since the entire industry is experimenting, you need to deliver as soon as possible and test as soon as possible. So this middle circle, where here you can have like design thinking, here you can have regular agile software development, scrum, whatever, and then delivering, measuring as soon as possible, iterating definitely makes sense in terms of AI products, right? So this is actually funny how those technologies are being kind of flagged as the dead, but then hey, how about no, right?
It's kind of like
So
a fashion, right? The trends are
yeah,
coming back.
yeah, literally like a fashion, right? Then like going back 80s, 90s, again we are going through this, as you mentioned, circling back all the
Mhm.
time. So right, yeah, we almost like going to the conclusions. Let me check if there are any comments. I'm not sure if there are any comments.
Mhm.
All right, so maybe let's wrap it up. So um, well, how I read what you said is that, hey, design process is the design at the end of the day. It's been with us since 50 or 60s or 70s, where we have probably the biggest boom of, designing the everyday products, as we had this book.
Mhm.
And it's still the design process, but it's evolving, right? And there are some additional elements that we can add. Probably you will witness a birth of or new methodologies being born. Then at the end of the day, will be very similar to the last ones or the previous ones. However, there are some opportunities in the field, right? And the first opportunity is like all those manual tasks that you had to do as a researcher or as a designer,
Mhm.
it might be replaced. The second thing is that data analysis might be much more democratized and faster, and you will be able to work on a bigger amounts of data, uh, which was a limitation before. The third one is definitely addressing somehow ideation copilots, how it will work in practice, keeping in mind that the usually ideation is the most favorable part of majority of people. So let's not take it from them. And of course, those rapid prototyping technologies that will help us to deliver product faster. And I would say, as you mentioned, low fidelity is not relevant so much anymore, and we may see kind of intersection of high fidelity prototypes and some MVPs, maybe even launch on the market that will be more advanced through the AI, and the prototyping phase will be just cheaper.
Mhm. So
Yeah,
maybe to wrap it up on my end as well, I'd like to give a shout out to all the designers out there, innovators out there. If you are not reflecting on the ever changing technological aspects, and you're not curious about how those new technologies, it being AI today, something else in the future, into your design process, if you're not curious how it's going to change your process, then you're probably doing something wrong.
yeah.
So it is extremely important to experiment. It is extremely important to stay open and stay curious and evolve in how we do things.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Agata. It was very interesting, very insightful. Thank you all for being with us with this around 40 minutes. So we will have next very interesting sessions ahead. So the next one, which will be the 10th April, we will discuss in depth the prototyping phase. So this is something super interesting. We will discuss that with the people that are prototyping on a daily basis from our research and development team. So really looking forward to that. And so far, yeah, thank you very much, Agata, again. Thanks for saying all those, important things about also testing new tools. I believe this is like, you need to keep be open-minded for those
Mhm.
new technologies, because it will, for sure, this is the change. And yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for your time, and see you next time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.